Hey everybody, Randy Hilarski here. I'm here with the founder of TrustSwap, Jeff Kirdeikis. Jeff's a longtime friend in crypto. We go back to our days on cryptocurrency investing, his Facebook group. And Jeff, thank you for coming on. I can't believe I'm actually talking to you.
We've chatted a lot online, and yeah, like you say, it goes back 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. So yeah, it's great to be hopping on and chatting with you about something that started off a little bit divisive between us, actually. You are on one side of the fence, and that's treated you incredibly well. I was on the other, and I've now converted. So yeah, really
this all went down. This had to be December or early January of December 2019 or early January 2020.
Yeah,
Hex had launched. I was writing articles on for Crypto Daily and saying, "Oh my God, this thing's amazing." And the thing is, I was not one of these Hex guys. I was not one of these guys who followed Richard Hart. I couldn't stand him because he was a Bitcoin maxi. He was a Bitcoin maxi for years, and I can't stand Bitcoin maxi. So right. I had always tuned him out. But I saw this video, and he was saying what he was building. I'm like, wait, time deposits, dude, this is perfect for crypto. I want to get involved in this. And I invested on day one, and I wrote the article telling everyone how to do it. I threw in my referral link, and I know that might have been one of the things you had a problem with was referral links. And I actually made over 1 million Hex just from referrals.
That's unreal. Yeah,
that was good for me over the first month or so. And you put up a post saying you didn't like Hex in your, I think it was cryptocurrency investing, and then you also bought Crypto Coin Trader. I think that you own that Facebook group as well. Guys, these are the two largest Facebook groups in crypto. Jeff is the man. He owns both of them. And you wrote that, and I was like, what the hell, man? Jeff, why are you talking shit, man? This project hasn't even had a chance to show itself yet. But it's hard to stay to go against the mainstream when all the it seemed like the big crypto OGs, especially the maxis, were like, oh my God, Hex is a scam. Every one of them. Cointelegraph, CoinDesk, they're all saying bad things. I understand your situation. And,
for sure.
But you get around.
Definitely. And so kind of my logic and reasoning, and I'm sure a lot of people see it, a similar fashion is there is a potential centralization vector with, a concentration of a lot of tokens in a single wallet. And so originally myself, and I think a lot of people figured that to be a bug or a vulnerability. With time, as the project has proved itself, as you've mentioned, it's become very apparent that this isn't a bug. This has become a feature, that these things have been put in place, and it's a very intelligent design. The long-term staking, it saves people from themselves. Paper hands are the biggest plague on the crypto industry right now.
I was exactly. One of them. 10x, I'm out.
Exactly. And then that prevents the gains for everybody else. So it's like the long-term staking is a huge feature, even though, and for example, on one of my projects, TrustSwap, we have the launch pad, we have long vesting, and everyone complains about long vesting. And we say, well, it's to save you from yourself. And so it's the same with Hex. And so that's the feature. And then I think it's becoming very apparent that the way that the economics are shaping up with concentration of tokens in single wallets, potentially, that's also a feature. So that's become very apparent, and it's being led in a very strong way. I've watched many hours and done much research. So that's, I'm glad that I've had the malleability to decide to switch over rather than just, I think a lot of people get set.
You're the first one. I have to admit, you're the first person that I respect for up in the higher echelons of crypto that just publicly said, you know what, maybe I was wrong. This looks like it's a benefit or a feature rather than a bug.
Well, exactly. And when projects start performing as well as Hex did and still is, you have to take a second, third, and fourth look and really understand, okay, what is going on here? And so I spent a lot of time figuring out, like, wow, this is becoming incredibly successful. Maybe my assumptions were wrong, and they definitely were. Well, the assumption of the fact that, there's centralization of tokens, maybe that wasn't wrong, but what does that then mean?
Look at all the projects that are adopting it.
Exactly.
I launched Aurochs, the Aurochs token for Urus, and I'm still on the team. And I bought my tokens on day one when they launched on Uniswap. They launched at 20 cents. As a team member, the cheapest I got was $3. So, I didn't get any free tokens from Urus. I had to compete with everybody else on Uniswap to grab my tokens. And yesterday they hit $290 each. And because they adopted the feature from Hex for the time deposit, kind of,
Right.
I just maxed out at 5 years. I staked everything for 5 years, and I'm earning 20% APY.
Yeah.
And it's just, I look at my Blockfolio, I'm like, holy crap, you know. And that's because the Urus guys were smart enough to see what Hex was doing. They're like, smart. I got a story to tell here, because this kind of what you're saying with the, you know, the weak hands. I was having lunch with Trace Mayer. We were in Bogota, Colombia. We were at a conference, the Latin American Bitcoin conference, and we had just we met each other at the airport, and he said, hey, let's go to lunch. So we were sitting down at lunch, and we were talking about how we handle crypto. And I've known Trace has always been the strong hands guy. He never sold his Bitcoin. He would just hold on to it. And I told him that I had lost, just like 3 weeks earlier, I had lost between 7 and 9 Bitcoin on trading with the China banned Bitcoin news in 2017. Right. I just sat down, I had some coffee. I went long. I went to the kitchen to get more coffee. I come back and there's this huge red candle. I'm like, what the hell's going on? It just
some in this coffee. Got mushrooms in here.
Like, if I were just waited 10 minutes, I wouldn't have had my position in, right?
Right.
And over the next 2 days, it just kept dropping, and I had to keep putting more Bitcoin in to try to save my position. And by the end of when it was all said and done, it was between 7 and 9 Bitcoin lost. So I told him that, and he goes, "You're a degenerate." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're a gambler."
Right.
And after that, I stopped trading on BitMEX.
Yeah.
I ended all of my leverage trading. I never did it again. And all it took was somebody like Trace to whip me, like, whoosh, stop doing that shit.
I think this is the biggest misconception in crypto. Everyone thinks they're getting in and investing, but they are just gambling. You get on these coins that have dogs on the logo, or you get in for any time frame that's less than a year. Really, that's a gamble. If you're making an investment, that's 3 to 5 years minimum. And so I think, you know, on topic, that's exactly what Hex does. You're creating an investment certificate of deposit. I think that's very intelligent, and it sets the right mentality for people in the space, because when it's day trading, it then becomes a zero-sum game. Somebody's winning, somebody's losing. It's just BS. But if you're looking at, you know, a 3, 5 longer year time frame, now it becomes something where everybody is winning. Value is accruing in the ecosystem. So, yeah, I agree, and I'm glad you're on that team as well.
Yeah, and I left all the groups. You know, I left all the Facebook groups. I left in 2018, I believe. I left Crypto Coin Trader before you took over.
Right.
But I remember somebody messaged me, "Hey, did you see that Jeff?" It might have been Scott Morrison of Halo.
Right.
He might have messaged me, "Hey, did you see that Jeff Scott Crypto Coin Trader?" I'm like, "What the fuck?" Right. It's Jeff's taking over. and you also had your social media platform, did you sell it?
No. So Uptrend, the social media platform, decentralized social media, similar to Hive, which I think you were very frequented on, or Steam it. But I'm telling you, decentralized social media is not easy to build, especially when basically you're competing against Facebook, Twitter, Reddit. So that one, we ended up closing down the platform because it wasn't profitable. There was just too much gamification from third world countries coming in and just farming tokens. And we threw everything at solutions, but we couldn't create a solution without it becoming too, I guess you could say, owned by, like, because Steemit is very owned by the whales. And so we wanted to have it equally spread, but then to have it equally spread, then you opened it up to this vulnerability. So long story short, Uptrend, the platform, closed down. We gave the 1UP token to this other crypto news blogging platform, Tradable. So the 1UP token still lives on. But yeah, we did close Uptrend just because at one point we're the largest decentralized social media platform in the world, and yet it was still very much a losing battle. So sometimes you got to know where the juice is worth the squeeze type thing. And
it's like me. I totally shut down my project after fucking fighting with the developers for the last 3 years. I said, you know what, it's not worth the headache. I gave my investor, he gets his money back.
Yeah.
I said, look, I just don't want to deal with this. We'll go on to something else. And obviously Hex is taking a lot of my time. And so let's segue into what's going on with Pulsechain. I don't know if you've been watching, but there was a couple tweets that came out. They're having the London meetup on December 2nd. It's going to be a big party. That's the launch date of Hex. So December 2nd of 2019, I think it was the day it launched.
Right.
And then Richard put out this tweet about his birthday. It was already past his birthday, which is why it was so everyone read into it, because his birthday is in October. but he said he was born at 11:18 p.m. And he made a point of the time that he was born. So everyone's thinking that maybe that's going to be the day that Pulsechain is launching, or Snapshot. We don't know.
Got you.
I think he was smart though. He said on live stream that he's not going to go with a Snapshot date. He doesn't really want to do that because that's when the speculators come jumping in. And you and I both know what happens when you have a snapshot date with a coin, Bitcoin private. Zencash, when they launched, they launched from Z Classic, the prices of Z Classic just exploded.
Yeah.
I remember Z Classic went to 130 from like 30 or 40 cents or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I remember Joe Blackburn used to, he was really big into the Bitcoin private thing, and he made a ton of money on that one. So I'm kind of glad Richard's not doing it, just coming from my old buy the rumor, sell the news, Randy, how I used to trade crypto, and just have a fork and let the whole system state move on over to Pulsechain. And you guys, TrustSwap, I think we're the first ones to actually publicly commit to saying that your project is now going to also be available on Pulsechain. Does that mean you guys are also providing liquidity and all that too?
Yeah, so I mean, it certainly means much more than just, we're going to be on Pulsechain as the swap token, and that we will provide liquidity on the DEX that is issued there. But we have also already fully developed a full suite of tooling and servicing for Pulsechain that's ready to go. Whenever the go live date is, we're ready to just kind of press the button. So we have token creation. So you're going to be able to create a token on Pulsechain within seconds, fully customizable for free. Boom, take it, go. And then you can then lock those tokens so that, you can give the people who are participating in your token a sense of security. And you can also lock the liquidity. So you have a fully audited token, fully audited token, locked tokens and secured liquidity. You kind of have like the holy grail of security right there. And then, of course, we have the TrustSwap Launchpad, which is Pulsechain compatible. That's
great, man. And, I've got a project coming up, and maybe I'll discuss that with you to see if we can have a coin and launch it with you guys. The one thing I want to talk about is there is a company called PulsePad that is supposed to be launching on Pulsechain. I want you to put your input into this because you've been around for a while. TrustSwap's been around for a while. To me, that they are direct competitors to what you've already built and have trust already built in TrustSwap. So, so give me ideas on this.
Definitely. And so, as Pulsechain launches, I imagine it's going to be a very large blue ocean of opportunity for lots of launch pads, lots of projects. TrustSwap itself will not be able to handle all the projects that want to do a launch pad through Pulsechain. So that's a given and that's granted. However, now if we're comparing, all these launch pads, whether it's PulsePad or AdaPad or BSC Pad or whatever it is, versus the larger launch pads like TrustSwap, PokeStarter, DAOmaker, these large ones were already cross-chain. TrustSwap is actually, I think, the only one that offers all of the blockchains, whereas the other ones are only a few. But, although it's branded as PulsePad, I think that people should realize that's not necessarily the only launchpad that's going to work for Pulsechain. So it's got good branding, which I'm sure is full of hype and excitement. But I think people need to realize, a lot of these other blockchains are still going to be able to support Pulsechain because it's EVM compatible. So that's incredibly easy.
Great. I heard they're raising money too, and you guys don't need to raise money.
No, we do not need to raise money. We got enough of that stuff. That's for sure. It's been a very, very good year and a bit. We now have some crazy stats, $4 billion locked on Team Finance. So that's actually more than Uniswap V3. We've got 12,500 projects using Team Finance now. We've done over 30 launchpad raises, raised probably $50 million. Our revenue, and we're doing good. I'll just leave it at that. So, you don't need to give us any money. Just
the old school way, what I used to do when doing the ICOs, because I was always one of the marketing guys in the ICOs. I did over 30 of them. We raised like $400 million over the course of 3 or 4 years there. I haven't done one in a while, and I'm kind of getting back into it. So there's a couple projects that I'm looking to work with over the next 3 to 4 months. Maybe we'll have a call with you with their teams and see if it's something we can match up.
Definitely.
But I'm telling you, Pulse is going. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of whispers around the crypto community of what people are planning on doing on Pulse, and I think it's going to absolutely explode. no more of these ghost chains, right? We have enough ghost chains now.
Yes.
This whole idea with Pulse, with bringing over the system state, kind of gets rid of that, because there's going to be lots of transactions already. NFTs are coming over, whole blockchains are coming over. Cool. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how value transfers over. For example, if you're transferring a CryptoPunk, or if you're transferring a USDC token, or if you're transferring a normal ERC20, how deeply does that value hold? I mean, I think we can all agree that something like Tether, probably not backed one-to-one by the US dollar. So then how much impact does that make when you then transfer that Tether over to Pulsechain? Because the argument is going to be, well, it's not backed by the US dollar, but then you could just say, well, neither is Tether in itself. So I'm very, very interested to see what happens in the stablecoin ecosystem, in particular for Pulsechain. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I have a feeling that DAI is going to be the first one to support it, because DAI tends to. They got on BSC really early. I think they might even be on Matic. I'm not sure. I haven't checked, but I was on Matic yesterday. I think I saw it. So, they tend to come right over. So DAI is my favorite stablecoin. I do use USDC once in a while. What's funny is all those years of using USDT, and I pretty much stopped using it. I don't even know why. Probably because there's not many liquidity pairs anymore, not as much. So, and then there's the speculation of what's going on. I live in Panama. I was here when Crypto Capital went down. Crypto Capital was the company that was handling all the banking for USDT, and they had that bank in Poland seized, the bank accounts in Poland seized. That's when everyone was speculating that USDT was going to implode, and that had to be 2018, right around there. And obviously, I know Ira Miller. He was one of the developers of USDT. I just was chatting with him right before you messaged me. Yeah, he lives in here. He lives in Panama as well. Going to see him in December. So it's just I feel like I'm on the inner circle of USDT from the old school side, and I don't hear any of them being worried. So.
Yeah. Well, at some point, it's one of these two. It's probably the wrong phrase to use, but I'll use it: too big to fail things. Because I think there's a pretty large consensus. It's not backed one-to-one. I think we all understand that. And so if we did a bank run on USDT, we'd all be effed. But if we all did the bank run on the US dollar or whatever dollar, that economy would collapse anyways. Just today, it was announced 6% inflation in October, which means about true inflation is 12%, otherwise said as every 30 days, you lose 1% of your purchasing power of the dollar. So all of these financial systems, I think, are very kind of like cloak and mirror, smoke and mirror. And
I saw you tweet that out. You tweeted it out, right? Talking about
I'm very interested in U.S. economics, because I think once that domino starts falling, that presents a very interesting case for sound money, whether it be Bitcoin or other sound money. I think I'm sure on this call, people who are watching would agree that Hex could be a very strong example of sound money with a fixed inflation locked away. I think it makes a lot of sense. So I got my finger on the pulse with that, and that's why I'm so interested to see how value transfers over to Pulsechain. Because let's say I have 10 million USDC in my wallet. Now I got 10 million USDC over here. Is it worth $10 million? To be seen. It's going to be very interesting, because
if you just hold it there, it definitely could over say in 6 months. If all the thing is, if Pulse starts doing very well, all the stable coins are to support it. They will. They're going to, because it would be just wise if they supported BSC. They're supporting Matic. They're supporting all these other ones.
But the one key difference here is that you're duplicating value onto Pulsechain. So for example, let's say in theory you have one-to-one backed value on USDC. So you got $10 million backed on the ETH chain. Now all of a sudden, boom, there's another $10 million minted.
20.
So there's $10 million out of thin air. So whereas on BSC and it's been bridged, so it's still in theory backed. So how does this thin air stablecoin hold value? That's what I'm interested to see, because my thesis is most stablecoins are thin air backed anyways.
Yes.
So it's going to be very.
Weren't you doing a giveaway, 100,000 USDC or something? What was that?
Yeah. So that one made me lose my faith in humanity a little bit. So it was a giveaway. It was a first 1,000 people to retweet this tweet. I'm going to give away 100 swap to them. All you have to do is fill in this link, and then it showed the link, and you click on the link and it's a Rick Roll video. So it was just a big prank. But I ended up getting like 1,000 retweets. I'm like, man, like, welcome to the internet, guys. If you've never been Rick Rolled before.
It sounds like the squid token. You get what you deserve, bitches.
Yeah.
Oh man, and did you see it? I mean, people poured. It went down 100%, and then people poured back into it, and then it went down again. Like, people are just dumb.
See, and that's unreal, and that's actually frustrates me, because TrustSwap has literally built software that costs $50 to use it, and it would have prevented that entire thing. What was the market cap? I think there's that one video. The guy's like, the market cap is at like $1 trillion, and then it dumps. It's like, you could have prevented and saved $1 trillion of value by just the community saying, hey, listen, if you don't have your tokens and liquidity locked, we're not in for the game. We're not in for the ride. So that's frustrating to me, but I get the gist of you get what you deserve, because if there's no security measures in place, and I think they had selling turned off for the last hour too, didn't they? Yeah.
Yes, and then on top of the name of it was Squid Game.
Right.
I watched the first episode. Anna and I watched the first episode. We turned to it, like, that's enough. I kind of know where this is going.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff I like to watch. I said, we're good.
Yeah.
All right. So what are some of your speculations? What's going to happen with Pulsechain? Just to, put it out there.
Well, I can say I think it's going to be incredibly successful. That is a very good. That's a strong speculation. It has all the ingredients for success. It has an incredibly strong community. It's being very intelligently led and designed. And I think people are, whenever there's an airdrop, you look at ENS today, there was an airdrop of ENS tokens, and their network exploded, and people are making tons of money. Everyone's pouring into this network. Literally everyone on ETH is going to be getting airdropped through Pulsechain. So there's going to be a massive amount of attention, awareness, excitement heading over to this ecosystem. As I mentioned, the only thing that I'm not sure of, and I think it's going to be incredibly volatile, is how stable coins and the value of various ERC20s play out on Pulsechain. And I think for ERC20s, it will matter. Well, hopefully it matters how these projects bake in the utility of their P token into their ecosystem. So yeah, I think it's going to be very successful. The ecosystem, the Pulse token, will have a significant amount of value, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how things evolve within that ecosystem. But at the end of the day, TrustSwap is going to be there to support its growth with essentially a set of tools that will help this ecosystem scale, not only quickly and effectively, but securely as well.
Yeah, thanks, man. And one thing I look at is founders, people who own projects, and how projects were launched prior to 2020. Now we will launch them directly on Uniswap, like Oris, the Aurochs token did. But before that, the team usually kept 20 to 30% of tokens, because obviously you had to use some from exchanges for the centralized exchanges.
Right.
You had to have some to pay in the team, and that all the coins that are locked up, all that kind of things. So it just makes sense that any team that was prior to 2020, that they get in and use Pulsechain, because now they just double their bags. And if they provide some liquidity to the project, if their project was 1 billion tokens, now they have 2 billion tokens. It's just, so you're just doubling your bag. It's no different than a user.
For sure. And so maybe I'll kind of throw a different thought out. And this is kind of what I've been wrestling with in my mind, because for sure, like, let's use TrustSwap, for example. We have a market cap, tiny compared to Hex, $100 million. And so now if we mint essentially all these new P swap tokens get minted. So now there's essentially, let's say it's the same value on both chains. Has our market cap now doubled in value? Is our company worth twice as more because it's on two chains? So that's what I wrestle with. And if in theory the company is worth the same, 100 million, then do they both go down by half? Does Pulsechain lose value? How does the utility of the
do you burn them?
Exactly. But then if you burn the ETH chain, then of course the value would for sure get transferred over to Pulsechain. So that's what I'm interested to see, is how does burning and supply and demand really factor in, as well as utility, into all of this. And then I just shake my head and I think, most crypto people are just degens. It's not going to make any sense. It's going to be a crazy wild west. The price is going to go fucking ape shit, and let's see what happens. So I hope for the more boring answer that it is based on utility, supply and demand, but the other one's a lot more exciting. That it just,
well, you know, it is the one thing that with Pulsechain, it's very similar to Hex, where as the OA or the origin address does have about 80% of the tokens, I think, or 85 or something like that. They didn't have the opportunity. They didn't have the daily auctions to just buy up tokens like they did during the Hex first year, but they still came in right at the end and they got a shit ton. All right. So they still have that centralized power where they can kind of move things around and keep the amount of liquid tokens very, very small, which when you have Richard believes in low liquidity. He doesn't believe in having tons of liquidity on the exchanges, so that he likes those big wicks. He likes those, those big ones down. So because it gives you an opportunity. So if I'm a trader and I get to put in a position, say I want to buy at 10 cents, I could put it in there because you never know. Like right now, Hex is 18 cents. We can have a capitulation candle, and there's nothing. It's nothing for Hex to drop, that much, and one candle, and then bounce right back up. So you have that's what I love about low liquidity. And I never would have said this prior to Hex. I was one of those guys that believed you had to have really good liquidity. And now, like with Scott Morrison of Halo, I always fight with him on that. He's like, you got to have good liquidity. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, I certainly watched the stream, and I'm sure everyone watching this did as well, between Richard and Alex Saunders.
Oh, jeez.
And their liquidity debate. And Alex, of course, not to be heard of since then.
Yeah, disappeared.
But so I think, as you mentioned, it does have huge benefits to have low liquidity. There's a lot. But I think, to create a well-rounded conversation, it does need to be understood that there is a slight downside to low liquidity, in my opinion, because if you, let's say, have $100 million position and you want to liquidate all of it right now, you could probably do that with Bitcoin. You could not do that with Hex. No. So of course, don't dump the 100 billion. You could set slowly, or you set a limit sell order on 1 inch or whatever. Like there are ways to get out. But I agree. I think lower liquidity has more positives than negatives. But I think it's always not black and white. I think, Rich, I won't go into that, but I think people need to realize that a lot of things just aren't necessarily black and white. But overall, I certainly agree with you.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait for launch.
Right.
It reminds me of things like when Tron launched. I wasn't a Tron guy, but I had friends. I had a friend from up in your area. I think he's from Saskatchewan, or up there. And young kid, he was 19 when Tron launched, and he did $500 in the ICO. And right after ICO, he sold out. And he had 50 grand. He was like 19 years old. He came down to Panama. He lived here for a year and a half off that 50 grand, like a king, right?
Yeah.
Just smoked weed all day, did MDMA, did whatever he wanted to do, and enjoyed life. And then now he's sailing out to Bali. He's doing. I know you're a Bali guy as well.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that Pulsechain could do something similar. It's those first few days are going to be so volatile.
Yes.
And I believe it's like the ICOs of old, where you had that huge pump right in the beginning. And I think that's what's going to happen. Then it'll settle down. It'll have price discovery after a couple of days, and we'll settle in for probably it'll start dropping, for a month or two.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. That's how it used to work, right?
For sure. Yeah. If you look at any ICO, any launch, that is generally correct. It goes boom, and then
then it just trickles down.
And then you got another breakout, whatever time frame later it is. But
even Hex did it. Yeah, even Hex in the first year. Right. Like I said, I disappeared for 10 weeks or whatever. And then all of a sudden I checked my blockfolio and I'm up a whole bunch. I'm like, what happened? Right. and somebody came in and bought millions upon millions of dollars worth of Hex. And it was one of those Ethereum
Genesis whales, right?
Genesis whales that came in and just bought a bunch. So, and then that's another thing with Pulse. We have a bunch of Genesis whales that invested. So there's some big hitters out there. I know Heidi and Toby, Heidi Shekels, Toby Cunningham. Yeah. They're in Pulse. I actually said this to Richard. I said, Richard, it's cool that Heidi Shekels is supporting Pulsechain. Quietly. She wasn't doing it on Twitter or anything, but I know she was telling people that she was. And he's like, who's Heidi? What? She interviewed you, man. Come back down to earth, Richard.
Right.
She's a friend of mine. You know who she is. Sometimes, man, we get our minds just go off, and we forget who got us there.
Definitely, yeah. But yeah, I foresee a real strong start. I think it would be foolish to think that it couldn't start in a at least top 20 cryptocurrency within the first day or two of launch. Yeah, so
that's going to be insane.
It will be quite good. Yeah, everyone who sacrificed early, I think, is going to.
I regret not putting more in. I was being very conservative because Hex is my baby, right? I like my money printers, and I didn't want to sacrifice them.
Got you.
You know, I make more. I was a nurse for, I've been a nurse since '92, and what I make as a nurse per year, $50,000 a year, and I make way more than that now per month, just from my Hex interest.
Yeah.
And that's only one of the cryptos I own. And this one just like cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And even at 16, 17 cents, when it went up to 50, I was like, oh my Lord. But it's going to be, and the other one I wanted to bring up is Axion.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of Hexicans and Pulse people, they also own Axion. I'm the only one that talks about it publicly.
Right.
I don't have fear. And even when Axion has videos, I go into the chat and their live streams and things and chat with the guys. Great team. I kind of regret not getting in when you told me to. I remember you messaged me. It had to be like April or June of 2020. You're like, Randy, check out Axion. And I was like, man, but I'm already, knee deep in or whatever in Hex. And I didn't want to allocate any funds over because I thought Hex was still cheap. But when they launched and they had that nefarious team member over in, I think it was Ukraine or something, that messed up the contract and stole some funds, everyone thought it was a rug pull.
Yes.
But it wasn't a rug pull. It was somebody who actually stole money, who had the keys during the launch phase to be able to write code and siphon off the funds. Yeah. And they fixed it, right? So during that day, man, I was buying so much. I was throwing a shit ton of money at it. And over the next year, the price just kept trickling down. And I kept putting more and more. And now I got it. I'm a nice shark on Axion. And hopefully, and all my coins are staked for 15 years.
Nice.
For those of you guys who do not know, this is going to come for Hex in the future. But Axion has already stated that they're going to have tradable stakes. That is coming, and version 3 should be coming in the next couple of months, and as NFTs. So I said, when they started talking about that 6 months ago, I said, you know what, everything is going 15 years because when you could trade stakes and
yes,
because
I think that's the biggest friction point for adoption for somebody to want to be like, I'm going to make the decision to stake 15 years. The reason why you wouldn't do that is because you're illiquid now. Right. Or maybe you get the dividends and you can sell those, like, okay, fine. But for the most part, you're illiquid. But now if you can trade that locked in value, that's now very, very interesting because I think you're the perfect example. Now, if I can trade it, of course I'm going to stake 15 years. Yeah. So what happens when you introduce that into an ecosystem? You're going to get 100% of the supply locked. You're going to get a huge supply shock on the ecosystem. And now there's barely anything to buy. You want to talk about like low liquidity, a small buyer is going to send that thing to the fucking moon. They're going to be locking for 15 years and there's just less and less. So
I saw it happen to Axion. I think it's, I don't know the exact numbers. I don't want to pull it up right now because maybe it'll hurt the stream, but I think it's like 54% of all Axion is staked.
Now. I think it's about 85.
Is it 85?
Yeah, I think 33% of all supply is staked for 15 years.
That's crazy. Now I'm telling, listen up, Hex community. We're going to have this soon. This is coming to Pulsechain. We're going to have the ability to sell our stakes. So in my opinion, this is not financial advice, but what Randy's going to do in the future is stake everything for 15 years. Everything. Because I already have my short stake. My ladder's already built. So anything I do now, when I take something out and I take all my principal, I restake it, it's going out 15 years. That's it.
Yeah, it's an intelligent, it's a beyond intelligent design. As mentioned before, save people from themselves. And TrustSwap is actually building a similar staking model to this as well. It's not going to be 15 years, it'll be a 5-year with tradable stakes as well, with slightly different economics and things like that. But as you mentioned, a lot of projects see the value in this type of system, long-term staking rewards, long-term staking, lock it up. So yeah,
Connect Financial's got it.
Oh, really? They have a long-term staking too?
They have long-term staking as well. So it's like everyone saw the success of what Hex did, and they're like, you know what? Let's start putting this in, and it just makes sense. You know, the longer you stake, the higher rewards you get.
Yes,
and it also just takes away. Okay, so there's multiple benefits here. One, no trading. Two, it's like a shield when the price goes down. So if you're earning 40% APY, that's kind of like a 40% cushion when the price goes down. You always have that a drop because you know you're still earning the tokens. And people don't look at it that way, but that's how I look at it.
For sure. No, because that's like you're if you were measuring it in USD, then that's 100% accurate. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the more people dig into Hex, the more they get it, and they're like, oh shit, this is making sense. And just watching all the projects adapting. I already told you Urus is doing it. I got Connect Financial. You guys are talking about it. It's like Pulse Doge, you know, the meme coin that's going to be on that they've been marketing to be the first meme coin on Pulse. They've already said they're going to have 1-year lockups. You know, so check out their Telegram. They've got some really cool features that they're going to launch upon their launch when Pulsechain launches. So
something I'm interested to see. This is a little bit off topic, but on the very same thread as Pulse Doge, you could say the Hex community is quite maximalist. You know, if you mention anything else, you're going to get flogged with a belt. Now you're introducing Pulsechain to a community of maximalists. What happens then?
It's already a rough slog, man. I've had people unfollow me because look, I'm straight up honest. I'm a shill, man. If I see something I like, I start talking about it.
Right.
I'm on the Aurochs team, and you know I share the charts all the time, so I have no problem talking about Urus. I'm on the Pulsechain. Pulsechain just relaunched with Olympus, their new thing. So they have a whole other chain that has all the dexes and. You know, they're totally separate from everything else. So it's like having another BSC. Yeah. So I'm working with Polis now, and there's so many opportunities. I'm not one who just sticks with just one project. I hated Bitcoin maxis. I can't stand Ethereum maxis. I can't stand a maxi of anything. So, you know, the only thing that I was a maxi was I never owned a meme coin until Pulse Doge. Pulse Doge was the first one. And the only reason why I got into it is because I liked their memes. I thought they were funny as hell. Right. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put a couple grand in this. And I'm up like 3x already. So I'm good.
Yeah, totally. And I think, maximalism has for me, it's like a little bit of a double-edged sword because on one hand, I respect the shit out of them because they have a certain value and a certain reason for being there, whether it's Bitcoin, sound money, everything else is a fucking distraction. I get that. But then on the other side, there's the toxicity and they brand it as, you know, like being very strong and like, hey, like, here's why we are here. And I think the problem with that, though, is that humanity is diverse and we all have different flavors or styles or personalities and things we prefer. So you can't say everyone's only interested in sound money or everyone's only interested in certificates of deposit. You know, I think it's cool to have values and ethics and morals and stick to those. But it's there's like this one phrase, I'll probably butcher it, and they're like, it's like religion or let's say maximalism is like a dick. It's great to have one, but just don't have to whip it out and force it on me.
Slap it on the table. Exactly. We don't have competitions here, guys.
Nobody convinced anyone of anything by force. So
I'm just not into it. I mean, I got into Bitcoin for the tech. I got in 2014. I never thought I would get rich off of Bitcoin. I was like, hey, this is so cool. Yeah, and I'm a gold and silver guy, so I came from the traditional markets. You know, Peter Schiff is the one that got me back into gold and silver because I was a gold and silver kid. I was one of the coin collector as a kid from when I was like 7 years old. I mean, I had bags of silver coins and stuff when I was a kid. So I was huge into this. And I think it was 2006, right before the economic collapse. I was living in Tampa and I read Peter Schiff's book, and that's what brought me into learning about Ron Paul. I started following him, and I don't know how exactly I got into Bitcoin, but I was here in Panama and my partner at the time was like, Randy, we should buy some Bitcoin. It was $7 each. And I said, yeah, let's buy it. It's like $3,000 worth. And we didn't do it. And, you know, in the car, we're on the way to work. We're like, yeah, let's do it. And we just forgot. And I ended up having to buy it at $450. So, and then when I bought, it dropped all the way to 250 afterwards, and late 2014, early 2015. So I wasn't thinking I was getting rich. I was like, this shit's cool.
Yes.
I was so excited. And then I bought Darkcoin, which is now Dash. Sent all my coins to the Ether when they had their new wallet come out to Dash. I didn't know what I was doing. I just sent my coins to the Dash wallet and didn't realize I had to upgrade my coins first or do something on a site. Lost all of them. It was about $250,000 worth of Dash.
Oh man!
When I bought them, they weren't. It was only a few $1,000s. But when the price of Dash went ape shit, I was sitting there. I had my, I lost like $250,000. So a lot of mistakes.
That's a rite of passage in crypto, almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's just stuff that happens, and we learn and we move on. Yeah. And then 2017 is when the greed came in a little bit, and we all started getting excited. It's my first time I was a millionaire in my life, and I've worked hard. I was a nurse in the military, and having money for the first time. And same with my wife. She always worked as an office manager, so it felt good. And then 2018 and 2019 happened, and it felt like we were starting from scratch again.
From my peak 2017 to bottom 2018, it was a 90% difference. So it definitely stings.
But at least you had uptrend to focus on at that time. That was
for sure.
To do.
For sure.
And we were having fun. I was a little bit late to the uptrend party, but we still had fun. And it was a good learning experience. I'm glad that you cut it off and went on and found something that was way more successful.
That's it. Yeah. Sometimes I think the word is perseverance, and I'm a huge a fan of perseverance, but also within perseverance, you need to know when to pivot, when to make a new move. So that's it. It had crossed that line many times over. So we had to finally make the pivot, and I'm glad we did.
Well, Jeff, we've been talking for a little over 40 minutes now, and I just want to thank you on behalf of the Pulsechain community to being the first big project that said, yes, we're going to support Pulsechain. And it's just going to be a waterfall. I mean, everyone's going to be coming. I just have a feeling that every major project that is worth their salt is going to want to help lighten the load on Ethereum, help lower these fees.
Yeah,
it's getting ridiculous. I unstaked some Hex last week. It cost me like $600.
That's unreal.
I'm like, really?
Good thing it went up in value.
Yeah. I'm like, this is so painful. And
right.
I don't, and that's another reason why a lot of smaller projects aren't rising that fast right now, is because the small guys just can't buy, and they can't stake. I have ETA from EtaSwap. My friend Mike Patel is the CEO, and I've got a bunch of ETA just sitting in my wallet that I would love to stake, but the GWI is so high that I just can't see doing it. So I'll just sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, it is frustrating. So there are already chains out there, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, all these ones, but I think Pulsechain is introducing something. Well, it is 100% unique, so it's going to be a very interesting experiment to see how it rolls out, because it has never been done before, and there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on it. Everyone in the Ethereum ecosystem is getting an airdrop. Yes. I don't even know if that's been done before. Everyone gets an airdrop. So
not just a small airdrop either. Everything you own is going to double up.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's going to really create ripples, because there's no way that people cannot talk about this in every single crypto community. Whether you have Chainlink or you have Ripple, or you have, I guess Ripple's not on the ETH blockchain, but if you have anything on the ETH blockchain, you and your community are going to have this as a main topic of discussion. It has to be had. So that's going to bring a lot of focus and attention to Pulsechain. So
think about it as let's just take like Shiba, for example, even though I don't own that coin.
Right.
But the Shiba community is going to say, hey, team, could we get this get some support over on Pulsechain? And people are going to be like, what are you talking about? Dude, you got all your coins copied over on Pulse. And they're like, yeah, come on, team, give us some liquidity over there.
Right.
They're it's gonna be pressure, and most teams are going to do it. So just you're supporting it. I know EtaSwap, Mike Patel, he's already committed. So at least I'm imploring teams out there, learn now, do what Jeff is doing, start learning now, get prepared, because this is gonna cause a storm. It's gonna get very exciting for next six months, and I hope that wealth is made. A lot of people who are new. I got a lot of family members who sacrificed.
Yeah.
And I hope I want them to get that feeling that I've felt like 20 times. You know, it's a good feeling when you turn a couple grand into, 100 grand or whatever.
Exactly. Fully agreed. Yeah, it's been nice. Like TrustSwap Launchpads has been great with that too, for like family, friends, everyone in the community. Just like to see them completely stack up has been really cool.
The thanks that you get, those private messages, people you don't even know are paying attention. Like, Randy, I bought millions of hex when it was under a penny. Thank you. Like,
right.
Oh, crap, dude. Yeah, you're doing well.
Exactly.
All right, Jeff. Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone that watched. Please give us a like and share this around, and make sure you tag, if you're sharing on Twitter, do @TrustSwap, @Jeff Kirdeikis, @myself, so we can get the mentions so that we can also help cause the steamroll effect on Twitter.
Right on. Appreciate the time,
All right,
Randy.
cheers. All right.